Imagine this. You just graduated from a top university. You're ambitious, capable, full of ideas. You land a stable, respected job in a public institution. Everything seems perfect. You're smart. You work hard. You're ready to make an impact. But within days, you notice something. The organization is inefficient. At first, you stay quiet. You try to be humble. But eventually, you can't hold it in. In a team meeting, you point out the problems. Even highlight risks in leadership decisions. The room goes silent. No one responds. 2 months later, your performance review comes back. Immature. Too impatient. Lacks collaboration. No big picture thinking. Meanwhile, your colleague, let's call him John, doesn't seem particularly capable. Sometimes he even slows things down. But he understands something you don't. He gives emotional value to leadership. He frames success as team coordination. He blames failures on external factors. And soon, he gets promoted. You feel it's unfair. Isn't this just unwritten rules? Isn't this corruption? Why can't someone like you succeed? That frustration is common. But here's a harder question. What if John is actually the smarter one? What if the unwritten rules are the real rules? Most people would call this office politics. But there's a more powerful way to understand it. This is a field. The idea comes from Pierre Bourdieu. His field theory explains that society is not one unified system, but a collection of different fields. Each field is like a game arena. It has its own rules, its own scoring system, its own definition of what counts as good. And here's the key insight. You are not judged by how smart or hardworking you are, but by whether you match the field's definition of value. If your field prioritizes loyalty and hierarchy but you insist on efficiency and truth, you're playing the wrong game. There's an old saying, work without following the boss, and all your effort is wasted. If you don't even know who controls the steering wheel, working harder just makes you crash faster. So instead of asking, am I good enough? You should ask, what field am I in? What does it reward? How does it keep score? Let's break down a few key concepts. First, field. A field is not a place. It's a network of positions. In your workplace, there are leaders, senior experts, mid-level staff, newcomers. Each position has different power. Leaders control resources. Experts control interpretation. And newcomers have almost no leverage. People come and go, but positions remain. Second, doxa. This refers to the unspoken beliefs of a field, what everyone takes for granted. You can think of it as the air you breathe. If your organization believes leaders are always right or harmony matters above all, then challenging leadership isn't just disagreement. It's breaking the laws of the universe. Third, habitus. This is your internal wiring. Your instincts, your reactions, your sense of what's appropriate. John thrives because his habitus matches the system. He knows what to say, when to speak, how to align. You, on the other hand, were trained in a different field. One that values truth, debate, equality. Your instincts don't fit here. Fourth, capital. Capital is anything that gives you an advantage. Not just money, but social connections, credentials, reputation. And here's the catch. Each field values different types of capital. In your workplace, loyalty and seniority may matter more than knowledge or creativity. So your strengths don't translate into power. Once you understand these concepts, the strategy becomes clear. Map the field. Understand the positions and power dynamics. Identify the doxa. What cannot be challenged. Observe others. See what behaviors are rewarded. Accumulate the right capital. At this point, you move beyond complaining about unfairness and start understanding structure. Because effort is not the currency. Alignment is. At this point, you move beyond complaining about unfairness and start understanding structure. Because effort is not the currency. Alignment is. And this applies everywhere, even at the highest levels. Take academia. Carl Sagan was a brilliant scientist. Over 600 publications. Major contributions to planetary science. He should have easily been elected to the National Academy of Sciences. But he wasn't. Why? Because he was too famous. He wrote best-selling books, appeared on TV, reached millions of people. And the academic field didn't like that. Its doxa values complexity, abstraction, and peer recognition, not popularity. So Sagan was labeled too popular to be serious. This is known as the Sagan effect. In Bourdieu's terms, academia is a reverse market. The more obscure and specialized you are, the more legitimate you appear. The more accessible and popular you are, the more suspicion you face. Sometimes, different types of capital even conflict. Take journalism. Do you prioritize audience attention or professional credibility? Breaking news quickly brings clicks, but waiting for accuracy builds trust. You can't maximize both at the same time. So you must choose, based on your position in the field. And above all forms of capital, there is one that matters most: symbolic capital. This is reputation, authority, legitimacy. Once you have it, you can define what counts as valuable. Think about this. In a graduate seminar, your professor casually dismisses a theory. Everyone laughs. But you don't even understand why. That moment reveals something powerful. The professor is exercising symbolic capital. They are shaping the field's standards. You don't dare disagree, because that authority is real. This is what Bourdieu calls symbolic violence. Not force, but the power to define reality. Eventually, you internalize these rules. You adjust your behavior. You reshape your instincts. And without realizing it, you submit to the field. Now look around. Every environment is a field. Family gatherings reward obedience and harmony. Debate clubs reward structured argumentation. Corporate promotions reward visibility and predictability. Tech startups reward problem-solving and execution. Each field has its own logic. So the point is not to become cynical. Bourdieu is not telling you to manipulate or conform blindly. He's showing you something deeper. What looks like a personal failure is often a structural mismatch. What feels like unfairness is often a misunderstanding of the rules. Recognizing the field doesn't mean surrendering to it. It means seeing clearly. If the field doesn't suit you, you can change fields. Or, eventually, change the field itself. But before you change anything, you must respect one reality. For a long time, the field is your constraint. And those who understand it are the ones who thrive. That's it for today's content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.